Many startups fail not because of lack of funding or ideas, but because of co founder conflicts and poor team dynamics. Today, we will explore how the right co founder and strong team alignment can make or break a venture. Welcome to week 7. Today, we shall discuss on navigating the entrepreneurial journey, the critical role of co-founder selection and team dynamics. The foundation of any successful entrepreneurial venture rests not merely on the groundbreaking ideas but on the individuals tasked with execution and the vision. Research consistently demonstrates that the primary cause of startup failure is not market incompatibility or lack of funding, but internal friction among the founding team. Wasserman highlights that interpersonal tensions are irreconcilable differences among founders account for a vast majority of startup demises. Consequently, understanding the intricate process of selecting a co founder and managing early team dynamics becomes a paramount concern for any serious entrepreneur. The strategic imperative of co founder selection, choosing a partner to build a business, is akin to entering a marriage under extreme financial and emotional stress. The process demands rigorous evaluation far beyond a simple friendship or shared enthusiasm for a product. Founders must prioritize three core pillars during the selection phase. These pillars are complementary skill sets, absolute alignment on core values, and demonstrated resilience under the pressure. Complementary skills form the bedrock of functional startup teams. Two brilliant software engineers might build an exceptional product but fail entirely at the market penetration, sales, or the financial modeling. Conversely, two seasoned sales executives might struggle to develop the technological infrastructure required to scale their solution. A well rounded founding team typically balances technical acumen with commercial expertise. Blank and Doff emphasizes that successful customer discovery and product development require a diverse perspective to avoid the echo chamber effect often seen in homogeneous groups. Beyond technical and business skills, alignment on core values dictates the long term viability of the partnership. Founders must engage in deeply uncomfortable conversations long before incorporating the company. They must discuss their ultimate goals. One founder might desire a quick acquisition within 3 years, while the other envisions building a legacy company over the decades. If these fundamental desires remain unaddressed, the resulting friction during strategic pivots or the acquisition offers can destroy the company from the inside out. Resilience and emotional intelligence serve as a final critical evaluation metrics. Startups operate in environments characterized by extreme uncertainty and constant setbacks. Assessing how a potential partner handles failure, negative feedback, and high stress situations is vital. Goldman, in the year 1995, identifies emotional intelligence as a stronger predictor of leadership success than the traditional cognitive intelligence. In a startup environment, the ability to regulate emotions during a crisis prevents catastrophic decisions making and maintains team morale. Now we shall look into a framework for evaluating potential partners. Entrepreneurs should approach co-founder selection with structured framework rather than relying solely on the intuition. A recommended approach involves initiating a trial period or a dating phase before formalizing the legal partnership. This period involves collaborating on a small, defined project with clear deliverables and the deadlines. Working together on a preliminary project exposes work habits, communication, styles, and the reliability. It answers crucial questions. Does the individual meet deadlines? How do they communicate when they fall beyond? Or do they take ownership of mistakes or the shift blames? This behavior data is far more valuable than any resume or the pitch deck. Furthermore, reference checks should never be skipped. Prospective founders must speak with former colleagues, managers, and subordinate of their potential partners. The goal is to uncover behavioral patterns during high stressed situations. Honest conversations with past associates can reveal blind spots and provide a realistic preview of the working relationship. Next is structuring the partnership and equity distribution. Once the right partner is identified, structuring the relationship correctly prevents future disputes. A common and often fatal mistake in early stage startup is the immediate and unconditional equal division of equity. While a 50-50 split might feel equitable initially, it frequently leads to resentment if founder ultimately contributes significantly more time, capital, or intellectual property. Wasserman advocates for dynamic equity splits and the strict implementation of vesting schedules. A standard 4 year vesting schedule with a 1 year cliff ensures that founders earn their ownership over time through continued contribution. If a founder departs after 6 months, the cliff prevents them from walking away with a massive portion of the company, thereby protecting the remaining founders and the business itself. Role clarity represents another structural necessity. Even in two-person startup, delineating the responsibility prevents duplicated efforts and ensures accountability. One individual must ultimately hold the role of chief executive officer to act as the final decision maker when consensus cannot be reached. Shared leadership models almost universally fail due to decision paralysis and strategic ambiguity. Next is cultivating healthy team dynamics. With the founder team established and structured, the focus must shift to nurturing productive team dynamics. The early days of a startup are chaotic, and maintaining a cohesive until requires deliberate efforts and psychological insights. Tuckman proposed a fundamental model of group development encompassing 4 stages. These stages are forming, storming, norming, and performing. Startup teams rapidly cycle through these phases. During the forming stage, founders are polite and optimistic. However, as the immense pressure of building a business sets in, the team enters the storming phase. The storming phase is characterized by conflict, challenging of authority, and interpersonal friction. This phase is entirely normal and necessary. The danger lies in avoiding conflict rather than resolving it. Teams that suppress disagreements to maintain artificial harmony builds up toxic resentment. Successful founders lean into the storming phase, utilizing structured conflict resolution mechanism to address grievances openly and objectively. Transitioning from storming to norming requires establishment of clear communication and regular check ins, transparent metrics, tracking, and dedicated times for strategic debate fosters the alignment. As rules of engagement solidify, the team finally reaches the performing stage, operating as a highly efficient, synchronized unit. Next is the role of psychological safety. Underpinning all successful team dynamics is the concept of psychological safety. Edmondson defines psychological safety as a shared belief held by members of a team that the team is safe for interpersonal risk taking. In a startup context, this means individuals feel comfortable pitching unconventional ideas, admitting mistakes, and challenging the CEO without fear of humiliation or the retaliation. Startups rely on rapid iteration and learning from failure. If employees and co founders are terrified of making mistakes, innovation ceases entirely. Leaders cultivate psychological safety by modeling vulnerability. When a founder openly admits a miscalculation or asks for help, they signal to the entire organization that perfection is not the expectation, but rather honest effort and continuous learning. Scaling team dynamics beyond the founders. As the startup secures funding and begins to scale, team dynamics undergo a massive paradigm shift. The founders must transition from being individual contributors who build the product to executives who build the organization. This transition is notoriously difficult. Hiring the first 10 employees sets the cultural DNA of the company forever. These early hires must possess a high tolerance for ambiguity and an entrepreneurial mindset. They are not merely employees filing a defined role. They are cultural ambassadors who will shape the environment for the next 100 hires. Founders must explicitly define the company culture rather than letting it develop organically. Culture is not defined by pinning pong tables or the free lunches. Culture is defined by the behavior that the leadership team rewards, tolerates, and punishes. If a brilliant engineer exhibits toxic behavior and is allowed to remain because of their technical output, the founders have explicitly stated that performance supersedes core values. Maintaining alignment across a growing team requires rigorous internal communication. The informal and ad hoc conversations that worked for a team of three completely breaks down for a team of 30. Implementing all hands meeting, transparent objective tracking frameworks, and structured performance reviews becomes essential to keep everyone moving in the exact same direction. Navigating the founder transition. A critical juncture in team dynamic occurs when the skills required to scale the company outgrows the capabilities of the original founder. The visionary leader who brilliantly navigated the 0 to 1 phase might completely lack the operational discipline required to manage a company that is preparing for a public offering. Founders must possess the self awareness to recognize their own limitations. Bringing in seasoned executives to take over crucial function often cause frictions. The original team might feel displaced or micromanaged by the new corporate structure. Managing this dynamic requires emotional intelligence from the founders who must publicly support the new leadership and help integrate them into the established culture. Now we shall look into a case study on the genesis of Airbnb and the triumph of complementary dynamics. The origin story of Airbnb serves as a master class in co founder selection, skill complementary, and extreme resilience. Bran and Gio were design school graduates living in San Francisco. Facing a rent increase they could not afford, they noticed a massive design conference was coming to the city, resulting in completely booked hotels. They decided to rent out air mattresses on their floor, providing breakfast to their guests. While Chesky and Gebbia possessed immense creativity, design thinking, and hustle, they lacked the deep technical engineering skills required to build a scalable global platform. They recognized this critical gap early in their journey. To solve this, they recruited Nathan, an brilliant software engineer with a high analytical mindset. This trio formed a perfectly balanced triangle of skills. Chesky emerged as the visionary leader and culture builder, Gebbia focused entirely on the user experience and design architecture, and Nathan built the robust technical infrastructure and managed the complex data analytics required to balance a two-sided marketplace. The team dynamics were tested severely during the economic downturn of 2008. Investors continually rejected their pitches, and the company acquired significant credit card debit. Instead of fracturing under the pressure, the founders leveraged their complementary skills to survive. They famously created and sold novelty breakfast cereals named Obama O's and Captain McCain's to fund their operations. This unconventional fundraising effort demonstrates their shared core values of relentless hustle and creative problem solving. It also proved to early investors, particularly Paul of Y Combinator, that this team possesses the rare interpersonal cohesion required to survive the brutal startup ecosystem. The founders never let ego dictate product decisions. When users' growth stagnated in New York, Chesky and Gebbia physically flew to the city to rent cameras and take professional photos of the listings, a non scalable task that drastically improved the user experience, and ignited the growth. The Airbnb narrative underscores every theoretical principles of effective team dynamics. They identified a massive skill gap and filled it strategically. They established clear domains of authority based on individual strengths. They fostered a culture of deep psychological safety that allowed for radical ideas like selling cereals to fund a software company. Decades later, the original founding team remained deeply involved in the company, a statistical anomaly in the startup world that directly reflects their initial focus on structural and interpersonal foundation. Conclusion and final thoughts. Building a successful startup requires far more than venture capital and an innovative product. It demands a hyper focus on the human element. The rigorous selection of co founders based on complementary skills and aligned values serves as the ultimate risk mitigation strategy. Founders must approach their relationships with the same analytical rigor they applied to their financial models. By embracing dynamic equity splits, establishing psychological safety, and understanding the inevitable stages of group development, entrepreneurs can build resilient teams capable of weathering the profound challenges of startup life. Ultimately, the market will dictate the success of the product, but the team dynamics will entirely dictate the survival of the company.